Caesarstone presents the Respirable Crystalline Silica Health Hazards and Protection movie. Caesarstone offers high-quality, durable solutions for countertops, vanities, wall cladding, and flooring, which are safe for use and require very low maintenance. As a leading manufacturer in the quartz surfaces industry, Caesarstone views the existence of a safe working environment for all employees, free of hazards and in compliance with all applicable laws, as a foremost interest. This movie is intended to provide information about the potentially life-threatening risks associated with fabricating quartz surfaces and how to reduce or prevent them. Caesarstone slabs and products are not hazardous when transported, shipped, or used by the end consumer. However, their fabrication may endanger the lives of fabricators and those who are regularly exposed to silica dust if safety measures are not taken. In this film, you will learn about the dangers of exposure to respirable crystalline silica, which is generated during the fabrication of granite, marble, and quartz surfaces, and the very real threat it poses to long-term health. Also, you will learn best working practices, which will minimize your exposure to respirable silica dust and create a safer environment for you and your personnel. Caesarstone slabs contain approximately 90% quartz and sometimes silica sand and cristobalite, all of which are crystalline silica, and polymers and pigments. Quartz is a natural mineral. As you well know, fabricating granite, marble, or quartz surfaces generates silica dust particles. While some of these particles are too large to pass through the respiratory system, smaller particles are respirable, that is, breathable, and are tiny enough to bypass the body's defenses and enter the lungs. This can result in irreparable damage to the lung tissue. The lungs take in air, extract oxygen, and release carbon dioxide. Anything that stops this process is potentially life-threatening. Silica particles may damage the lung tissue, and to protect against such particles, the body's defenses isolate them in scar tissue. Excess scar tissue, however, decreases lung capacity, which makes breathing difficult. As the scar tissue builds up through continued exposure to dust, the lungs can no longer carry out their main function, the extraction of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide. This can result in silicosis, which is characterized by fibrosis of the lungs. The pathological process of silicosis may cause severe complications such as lung cancer, tuberculosis, and autoimmune diseases such as rheumatoid arthritis. Pre-existing physical disorders may aggravate the adverse effects of exposure to silica dust. Silicosis is a chronic disease characterized by the formation of silica-containing nodules of scar tissue in the lungs. It is disabling, non-reversible, and often fatal. Depending upon the amount of exposure to silica dust, silicosis can appear after a short period of time of even less than a year of working in an environment with silica dust. In its simple form, in which the nodules are less than 1 centimeter in diameter, silicosis is symptomless. However, it can develop into complicated silicosis, in which the nodules are much bigger and make breathing increasingly labored. In both forms of silicosis, the disease can progress even without continued exposure to silica dust. For this reason, it is vital that personnel take preventative measures from the outset. Too often, prevention is a case of too little, too late. In reality, there is no acceptable level of exposure to respirable silica dust. However, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, has set safety standards above which exposure is likely to result in tissue damage. Currently, the permissible exposure limit, or PEL, to which workers may be exposed day after day without adverse effect is 0.105 milligrams per cubic meter. The American Conference of Governmental and Industrial Hygienists have established a threshold limit value, or TLV, of 0.025 milligrams per cubic meter. These PELs and TLVs differ in each country, so it is important that you consult the limits for the different types of silica dust according to the laws and regulations in your country. Workers at risk of exposure to silica dust are fabrication workers themselves, and any other personnel present on a regular basis at fabrication facilities where there is silica dust, such as managers and administrative staff. The amount of respirable silica dust is largely dependent on the manufacturing process. In areas tested with only wet cutting, grinding, and polishing techniques, levels are considerably lower than in areas in which dry cutting techniques are employed. Confined spaces are particularly prone to high concentrations of silica dust. The degree of ventilation also plays a crucial role. How the dust is disposed of is also a key factor. As one might expect, dry sweeping is the least effective method of disposal. All these factors have serious implications for minimizing exposure to respirable silica in the fabrication of quartz-containing materials. As a rule of thumb, if your shop is producing visible dust while fabricating granite, marble, or quartz surfaces, it is highly likely that you are exceeding the accepted safety standards, and you should take steps to adopt best practices to protect yourself and your personnel. It is, of course, highly advisable to consult with occupational hygiene experts regarding these issues, as well as appropriate engineering controls and other mechanisms in order to reduce exposure to dry silica. It is important to note that the diseases associated with silica dust can be controlled and even reduced or eliminated completely if the proper safety measures are implemented. Research into the connection between the principal manufacturing processes and lung disease suggests several ways in which you can significantly reduce exposure to silica dust. Where possible, the best way to avoid the creation of silica dust is to eliminate the dust by using wet fabrication techniques, whereby all cutting, grinding, and shaping is performed wet. The water containing the silica residue should not be allowed to dry out on surfaces. Although the best solution is to avoid producing dust by using wet fabrication techniques, the second type of engineering control is to use ventilation and filtration systems specifically designed to collect respirable particles in the dust. Thirdly, and again if dust production is not prevented by using water-based machinery, workers must wear protective gear, such as P3 masks, which should be used and replaced in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. In cases where exposure is particularly heavy, industrial respirators should be used and comprehensive training provided on their use. It is also recommended that workers change into designated work clothes, including shoes and socks, at the beginning of their shift at the worksite, and shower and change into clean clothes before leaving the worksite. The employer should launder the work clothes before reuse. In addition, eating, drinking, and smoking should only take place in areas that are not exposed to hazardous dust. Workers should wash their hands and face before eating, drinking, or smoking. By using the methods outlined here, you will safeguard yourself and your personnel against exposure to potentially life-threatening respiratory diseases such as silicosis. Basic employee and worker safety training should be implemented, such as a silica control program. Training meetings, in which safety materials such as this film are shown to all personnel, should be held on a regular basis. In addition, periodic physical tests to monitor the health of all workers should be performed in accordance with your local regulations. The employer is responsible for providing his workers with all the information, tools, and safety measures required in order to protect them from the dangers of exposure to silica dust. The workers are responsible for fully implementing the safety instructions. By a joint effort of the employer and his workers, the workplace can become a healthy environment for everyone. In this movie, we have explained what silica dust is and the potential health dangers it poses when safety rules are not followed. We have outlined the exposure limit standards set by some of the regulatory bodies and explained some of the most effective methods for reducing or eliminating the health risks associated with exposure to silica dust. At Caesarstone, we consider it very important that our customers fulfill the necessary safety requirements to protect their personnel. If you would like further advice on any of the issues raised in this film, please contact your local Caesarstone representative. Please remember that this movie is just a short summary of the required protection measures. We recommend that you also consult with occupational health professionals and other experts concerning all matters relating to the control of respirable crystalline silica in your specific workplace, and also that you check and observe your local regulations and legislation regarding these issues.